The assisted dying bill has got through, and we know that there's a 55 MP majority for that. I want to talk to someone who is against it, Dr. Mark Pickering, who's the Chief Executive of the Christian Medical Fellowship. He's also a prison GP in London. Mark, thanks for joining us today. Presumably you're pretty dismayed by this vote. Just tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, we are disappointed that the vote's gone against us, but I think it's because the proposals has basically been all about choice and autonomy, and it is difficult to argue against that. And we're very concerned about the scrutiny that the bill's going to have. You know, there's been lots of reassurance that don't worry, if you've got concerns about it, will all be looked at in the committee stage. Private members' bills don't traditionally get a lot of scrutiny. This is a 38-page bill. I think there's lots of clauses in there that are causing concern, real concern.
What concerns you? What are the things, now it has gone through, what are the aspects of it that you're most concerned about, Mark?
Well, a number of things. The judges is one of them. So High Court judges has been something that's reassured a lot of people. Don't worry, the judges will be looking at it. But we currently have 19,000 hours of High Court judge sitting time in this country. And on a conservative estimate, just alone for this bill, it would take 34,000 hours of High Court judge time to manage this bill. That's almost twice of the capacity we have already of High Court judges purely on this bill.
We can't know that, can we? We can't know that in terms of how many decisions would have to be made.
We certainly can, because in other countries you tend to hover around 3% of adult deaths will go by assisted dying based on other countries. That's from Kim Leadbeater's own data.
Okay.
And that's reasonable. 17,000 deaths a year, 2 hours per case is conservative. That's without having to bring in witnesses or check anything or anything like that. And so that would clearly overwhelm the courts or turn into a rubber stamping process.
The time put in, with respect, Mark, the time put in by High Court judges can't be your main objection to this.
No, but it's a pretty significant one. And if someone says, don't worry, we've got the strongest safeguards in the world, a High Court judge will look at it. Kim Leadbeater actually had to correct the record in Parliament today, because during the debate she said, I've discussed with the highest level of judiciary. Actually, she hadn't. The serving judiciary got back during the debate and said, no, you haven't. She had to go back and say, sorry, Mr. Speaker, that wasn't true. So that hasn't been thought through at the highest level. We're very concerned about coercion. Many people made passionate speeches about the problems with coercion. And it's not because somebody's going to be dragging Granny off to the doctor against her will to sign a form she doesn't want to sign. It's the internal coercion of elderly, vulnerable people knowing that they could ask for assisted dying, maybe that they should do, feeling that everyone would be better off without them, and thinking, yes, I'm a bit selfish really to be continuing to live when I could be asking for that assisted dying. You know, most of us are not really concerned about the people who are already used to exercising choice and autonomy, people like Esther Rantzen who've campaigned for this. You know, Esther will get good care, she's got good family around her, she's used to making her views known. I'm really concerned about people who are poor, elderly, vulnerable, perhaps disabled already, may not have English as a first language, may already not trust the healthcare system. There were some really eloquent speeches about Black and ethnic minority communities who already have trust problems with the health service for good reason often, and now suddenly they know that doctors could be actually suggesting that they might want to end their lives.
But the point is that doctors don't suggest it, isn't it? That's actually illegal to do that within the legislation.
No, it is not. No, it is not. A doctor can bring it up unannounced.
But they can't say to someone, I think you should take your own life. I think that you should you should think about assisted dying.
Well, if you're elderly and if you're vulnerable and that nice respected doctor says, well, there is another option that you might want to consider. You know, they don't have to say you should.
But this is life and death here. You're not going to just be, it's not just going to be suggested by a doctor. You're not going to say, well, the doctor says I should take my own life, therefore I should. I mean, it's a much more fundamental decision than that, isn't it?
Peter, I don't know how many consultations you've been in with elderly and vulnerable sick people, but often they really do take what doctors say
Not when it comes to ending their own life, and you don't know that, in fairness.
Well, I've talked to lots of people who feel a burden, lots of people who don't know whether they should carry on, don't have any hope for the future. And, you know, for a doctor to be able to suggest it, and some doctors will be quite pro it. We see in legislatures that do change the law, like Canada, There are some doctors that feel quite passionately that it's a patient's rights, and they should be promoting patients' rights. And people do actually cross those lines. Not everybody, but some will.
And Mark, given this is now democratically gone through, there are further stages to this bill, obviously, before it becomes law. But Mark, I wonder what you will do now, what campaigners like you against this will do at this stage.
Well, certainly we'll be pushing for a much stronger funding for palliative care. Lots of people have said that palliative care is so important. It's strange that campaigners for assisted dying have suddenly, discovered that we really need to fund palliative care better. They haven't really been saying much about that before now. So we'll continue to say that and push for that, like West Streeting has said. We want to hold them to account in terms of that scrutiny, which we've been promised many hours of committee stages and lots of different clauses in the next stage. And many people have said today that if they're not satisfied with the scrutiny, that they will vote the bill down at third reading. That doesn't often happen, but I'll be looking to see if people do actually go with that.
Okay. Mark, thank you. That's Mark Pickering there, Dr. Mark Pickering, who is Chief Executive of the Christian Medical Fellowship. He's also a prison GP in London.